Good morning to my viewers in the US. Good afternoon to my viewers in the UK, and good evening to my viewers further east in Australia, New Zealand. I think it's fairly late there. It's probably close to midnight in Australia and New Zealand, if not later. Today I'm starting my live stream earlier because Billy and I are on our own at home. My wife and daughter have gone out with friends. So yeah, I thought it would be great to do a live stream right now. Hi, Olaf. Nice to see you here from Sweden, Olaf. So yeah, I'll probably go on longer than half an hour. I'll probably go on for an hour, maybe a little longer today. Just a relaxed chat with the viewers. I'll take everyone's questions. The title of my live stream is that the debt bubble is the biggest threat to the West and the US included, of course, and not China. So I saw recently there was like an interview of Steve Bannon and a hedge fund manager on CNBC. They're almost like panicking about China, that it's a threat to the United States. And I don't agree with that. The biggest threat to the US are the bankers and the central bank, even though they did admit that the bankers in Wall Street are actually cooperating with China. But I would say the biggest problem is the debt system in America and the rest of the world. It has to keep going with more and more debt. And that's why I think it's important. That old saying of never a lender or borrower be is more important than ever. When things get bad, I think you don't want to have any debt in the system. So we've got a few people coming on here, 29 so far. One thumbs up. Maybe you guys should think about hitting that like button. Finance and economics. Hi, Shared Adala. Hi, Shared. James Scott trying to catch us out. It's normally 9. Yeah, not really trying to catch anyone out. It's just that for me today, it's how can I say? It's more convenient to do it now because Billy and I are the only people in the house, so it's quiet, and I can probably go on for longer. So that's the way to look at it. Olaf has a question. Have you noticed the decline of our Swedish krona? I'm glad I have most of my savings outside of the currency. Yeah, I saw this week the Riksbank basically wimped out, and the krona fell quite a bit. And they're gonna, like all the other central banks, they're gonna have to keep rates low forever almost. Some people have said that rates are never gonna go higher. I think they will go higher, but if central banks can control the rates, they will try to control it and keep it as low as possible. And that's why you need to be outside all the national currencies, Olaf, in my opinion. You need to have physical gold and physical silver. Those are the only currencies that will survive this. They've done the job for over a couple of thousand years, and they'll keep doing it. Cryptocurrencies, yes, I'm involved in cryptocurrencies. I have a little bit in cryptocurrencies. That's a different story. I think they will do well, but you need to be really careful. Very volatile, in my opinion. Hi, Claire. Nice to see you here. Claire Howe says, afternoon. Only my POV Adams and North video this morning, it was Beijing says Beijing is lying about their GDP. Well, it's not only Beijing that lies about their GDP. It's Washington, D.C., it's Brussels, it's Frankfurt, it's London. Everyone's right. The U.S. GDP came out at 3.2. I talked about it quite a bit late last week, some of my videos. And the number came out at 3.2 as expected, 2%. But if you guys look at the component, the GDP price index, that was revised from 1.9% to 0.6. So are you telling me that inflation in the US is only growing at 0.6, even though the CPI at the end of the first quarter was 1.9% year on year. And how does that impact GDP? Well, because when you calculate GDP, you calculate the nominal amount, then you strip out the inflation, and you get the GDP that you get. So they took out like 1.3% off the price measurement. So if you left the price index at 1.9, GDP would have been 1.9% and not 3.2. And the reaction of the markets makes me think that the markets didn't really buy it. Sanjit, hi Mario, how are you? I'm fine, thank you. Yeah, I haven't seen you around for the live streams. One request, please don't say world is under that mountain, which is not true. You should be aware. Well, I didn't say the title of the video is the West. So by the West, I don't mean the whole world. I mean the United States, Western Europe, Australia, Canada, New Zealand. I know that there are a lot of countries out there, like Russia. I'm not sure what the national debt for India is and the debt situation is. There's a lot of countries out there that don't have as much debt. So, and I didn't say the whole world is, but if the U.S. and Europe do catch a cold, if we do have a recession, it's going to impact the whole world anyway. Hopefully, the rest of the world will learn from the mistakes that we're making here in the West, because we're all complicit to it. The general public plays along with it, so we get the leaders that we deserve. Unfortunately, we fall for it, and I don't mean you and I. The general public. Sandra says we have 25 tons of gold in conservative measure. I think you're talking about India, right? I heard that the Indian Reserve Bank is starting to buy gold as well. I think the 25,000 tons, that's official government or RBI holdings, and the general public. Yeah, the Indians are the biggest holders of gold. But gold in of itself, yeah, it's a store of value, but it doesn't, and it stores your value. But I think it's also important that we don't forget that it's only money. And for countries and people to prosper, they must do more than just have gold. They need to generate income, and also live within their means. Because there's no point in just having gold and spending it and not having something to generate some income. Finance and economics. Much of the world is following the Japanese model of keeping rates low. Yeah, that's right. I mean, that's what keeps the financial bubble going. That keeps the bond market high. They need low interest rates because the debt is getting so big, especially in Japan, where debt to GDP ratio of the government is, I think, over 200%. I've got my, this is an old mug, the Tasmanian devil, Tassie Tasmanian. It's a big mug. Mike T, once they take the world to cashless system, do you think they will move to confiscate gold and silver from private ownership? Well, I'll answer the silver question first. Definitely not silver. They've never confiscated silver before, and I don't think they will. Gold, no, I don't think they will confiscate gold. They've already been confiscating gold through the back door, in my opinion, in the last 2 decades. Because, if you look at how many people really hold gold, aside from jewelry, of course, but for investment purposes, I think it's a very small percentage of the population. So I don't think they will confiscate gold, but I could be wrong. And that's why you need to keep it very safe and not with the banks. Jim Aberdeen says most GDP was made from trade and inventory buildup, unsustainable. Yeah, maybe so, Jim's, but also I think the fact that they revised the price index from 1.9 to 0.6, that's what gave it also a boost as well. No one mentioned that. I don't know why I'm the only one who mentions that, because nominal GDP is the head, the main number, and then they take the price or inflation off to have the real GDP. So it follows that if the inflation measure is really small, that they took off less from the nominal GDP. And I think that's what maybe the inventories as well, but I would say more the inflation measurement. Pat, the dumbing down of the citizen has been a practice of the elite throughout history. Yeah, if citizens figure out what's going on to them, they would be in the streets within days. Yeah, and unfortunately, I think it's going to continue. For the foreseeable future. We kind of wonder, why do we talk about these things if we know people are not going to wake up? But I think that's not the way to look at it. My way to look at it is, if I can wake up, hopefully one person once in a while, that's a good thing. Who knows? If we just let them run riot, then it's going to probably be even worse. Sanjit Miyoji, you need to visit a Hindu temple to realize the extent of gold Indians have, and why Europeans wanted to invade India at some point. Despite so much loot, we still have 25,000 tons. Well, I think the other thing that the British did, I think especially in the 1930s during the Great Depression, is the British actually looted a lot of the silver that India had. India had a lot of silver. Let's see. Oh, I wanted to also let you guys know, I was watching this YouTube video, and he spoke about Casey Research. Some of you might have heard of Casey Research, Doug Casey. And he's come out with this video. I'll give you the link you can listen to. I don't agree with 100% what they're saying, but here it is. That's the Casey video. He's talking about the fact that he thinks the deep state is going to bring down the stock market, crash the economy this year, so that Trump will lose the election in 2020. That's what they're foreseeing. I'm not too sure about that, but I recommend that, even though they focus a lot on socialism. They're saying that they're going, the deep state is going to crash the economy and bring socialism to America. That socialists always spend too much, but I think it doesn't really matter if you have conservatives or socialists in power. The debt still keeps going up. Don't get me wrong. I don't like socialism. I like small government, sound money, and unfortunately, right now, the only way to have sound money is to be your own central bank and to be outside national currencies, paper currencies, as much as possible. Yeah, so I recommend that video there that I put the link to, Casey Research. So does he get everything right? No, but he's made some good calls in the past. Who knows? I miss Nick Plur. Seeing the truth about everything is very depressing. I agree. I've been at this. I've always thought in the contrarian way. I've always asked questions. When I started working in my 20s, early 20s, then I started doing well. I realized, what is all this tax? Why do they need to take so much tax? And people always say, tax. Death and taxes are inevitable. We need government to run things. And I never agreed to that. I never really agreed with that. I think, tax is, how can I say, legalized theft. But I think it's, I guess, Nick, there's the old saying that ignorance is bliss. But I think I'd rather know what's going on, actually. I know it's depressing, but it doesn't mean to say that you can't live a happy life. I think the thing to do, and I'm not saying, I'm major happy, or everything's great. I'm just saying that you need to focus on yourself, your family, live within your means, try not to be in debt, and go out there and do whatever you like as a hobby, after you've done your job. I know bread and circus is a distraction, but it doesn't mean to say that you can't go and do whatever you like in your spare time. I personally like golf, but and I enjoy golf, but that's the only sport really that I do. I don't follow anything else on television, but you do need to get out there, smell the flowers, because if you stay in front of the screen all day, listening to all the videos and all the gloom and doom, yeah, it won't be good. And that's what I think the powers that be want. They want to scare you. And I think we shouldn't be scared. We should face this and be prepared for it. Anyway, SAC Media. Jeremy Roberts, Mary, do you believe gold kept privately should be insured? And if so, what is most economical insurance? I'm from South Australia. That's for you to decide if you want to insure it. So, yeah, I personally don't insure, my gold and silver. So there you go. And why do I say that? Well, because I don't even want insurers to know that what I have. So I want to keep it private. SAC Media is not coming down until 2024, 2025. We'll see. I mean, one of the reasons why I think there will be a crisis quite soon and a recession, and I'll put a link here to the Wikipedia link to the Fed funds rate, and I think we can safely say right now that the rate hiking cycle is finished for the Fed. And if you look at a chart on that Wikipedia link to the history of Fed funds rate, you will find like little gray columns when the cycle tops. And these gray columns are usually recessions and crisis. So with the rate hiking cycle ended now, I think we could have some kind of not disaster, but a crisis within 6 to 12 months, maybe a little longer. So I'm not too sure about 2024. Of course, no one's, I'm not a prophet or anything. I just try to learn from the past and try to predict the future. And that's what I'm doing here, speculating. Equitable Apple, don't you think it would be better if the House of Cards came down before 2020 instead of after Trump is reelected? The problem is if it comes down before 2020, you look back all the way to the Jimmy Carter administration, presidents that have, been in charge through a recession or a stock market collapse have never done well, have never been reelected. Even in 2008, Bush wasn't running again, of course, but you didn't get a Republican again. So, but you never know, of course. He could get reelected, but I think what Casey Research is warning against is that they think they want to bring it down and then basically bring heavy duty, European socialism to the United States, which isn't good, of course. Socialism is even more government. But I can understand why people who haven't got the knowledge and of the history of economics, of sound money, or of small government, and they're young, why would fall for this socialism and sort of MMT, which is QE for the people? Because we've had socialism in the last 11 years for Wall Street, for a group of of the very wealthy. What do you think they've had? This is not capitalism. They've had socialism. Am I saying this is right? No, but yeah, that's why I think it's more important than ever to be outside the system, not to be a lender or a borrower at the moment. Taegwa song, one song today, gold silver ratio is about 85. When do you think, in your opinion, the ratio will return to 40? Well, it's difficult to say when, but I think it will definitely again return to 40. That will be, when the precious metals are in the bull market. Silver usually leads the way. I've been talking about this, that I think it's not a bad time to add on to silver outright or relative to gold as well. TN21, I'm a big fan of your content, love your info. Thank you, TN. Yeah, Cyrus Kadrezer is saying things get bad enough, they will confiscate. That's possible. I don't think they've ever confiscated it here in the UK. But what they did in the UK in the 60s and 70s is that they limited the amount of gold bullion you could buy a year. I think it was 6 sovereigns, which is just over an ounce. So, but they've never actually confiscated it here in the UK. In the US, of course, they have. The thing is, yeah, they could confiscate gold, but they've been confiscating your fiat wealth through inflation. That's how they do it. It's a silent tax. It's an insidious tax. And look at Poland a few years ago. I think the government confiscated pension plans. So yeah, they might confiscate gold, but unfortunately, that's the way governments are. That doesn't mean that you shouldn't have any gold. Low blood pressure. I'm tired of Brexit delay. Yeah, it is a farce, this Brexit delay. I don't think King of Fun is saying there'll be a new Brexit. No, I don't think there'll be a new Brexit. It's just been delayed. Yeah, it's annoying. It's annoying. I think they're politicians. They break the law, but they make the law. They write the law, or the rules, or the statutes. And Article 50 said that if you don't leave by March 29th with a deal, then you leave without the deal, and that's the law. And they've broken the law. Desert Wolf, Jews control banks, news, media, politics, Hollywood, academia, everything Jews. Well, I don't think it's only. I don't think we can. How can I say, blame ethnic, religious groups for what's happening. I think it's more than just the Jews. It's very easy to blame them. Of course, they're very powerful and influential, but I would say there's a lot more than that. A lot of people talk about the Vatican, the Jesuits, the black nobility in Italy. These families have been around for hundreds, if sometimes thousands of years, and they're very powerful. So yeah, and the other thing as well, they don't, we're not forced to borrow money and spend and get into debt. So we've got ourselves to blame as well. We can't blame, scapegoat people. But I have to say, the current U.S. administration, I think if there was collusion from an outside power to help Trump get elected, it was from Israel and not Russia, of course. Tom Seward, we have fake capitalism. I don't think, yeah, like I said, Tom, I think Judaism, Zionism are completely different. Zionism, I think, has a strong grip on things, but it's not. There's a lot of Orthodox Jews who are anti-Zionist, so it's very complicated. Of course, we can't have free markets and sound money when we have central banks or fiat currency. Uh, the a good analogy about gold and silver and sound money is that they're stable measures of value. Can you imagine if you know uh, weights were changed every day, so you didn't know how much you weighed, you had to change it every day? Or if you went to buy something in the shop, instead of buying a pound of butter, and the pound changed the whole time, it would be confusing. And that's what they've done to money. And some people say, oh, but there's not enough gold or silver in the world. But I also, someone said something really interesting. Just because your ruler is only a meter long doesn't mean that you can't build a building that's 100 meters tall, right? So it's the same thing. Um, just because an ounce of gold might not seem a lot to run the monetary system doesn't mean you can't run it, because you can value it at any level. John Roberts, how do you make government smaller? Well, I think a big step towards that is having sound money and respecting sound money, gold and silver. Uh, yeah, because uh, it's very, if governments, under a fiat money system, it's very easy for them to keep spending the money and growing, because they can borrow, especially now with the central banks supporting them. But with gold, if they borrow too much, people are gonna say, "Oh, we think there's something wrong." They're gonna take their money out of the system. Interest rates go up, and they can't borrow as much. And if they try to tax too much to make government big, people don't like a lot of taxes. So that's how you make it smaller. Goran Nesic, when you say socialism, you mean oligarchy. Socialism is easy life for the masses. Yeah, I know there is a problem with this word socialism, uh, you know, and capitalism for that matter. I don't think we have, but when you say easy life for the masses, uh, I don't like that, that philosophy, because good things in life are never easy. I would say that, but I agree with you. But socialism as well uh, makes government too big, in my opinion. I don't like so I don't like to say socialism or even capitalism. Why not just say free market and small government? I think socialism is more something to do with being fair with people. So, but I don't think government should impose fairness. It should be up to people to be fair to each other. But if we have a fair and honest system, that's a long way towards being. And if you want to call that socialism, fine. Yeah, but I agree with you. In this day and age, life should be easier for the masses because of all the technology we have, all the knowledge we have. We shouldn't be in the debt that we are. Desert Wolf, how do you not take part in the system? Well, I think the important thing is to try to be outside the system as much as possible. Of course, you can't, you could become a hermit and go up into the mountains, but that's not what I'm trying to encourage. That's not what I'm doing. Is just try to not buy into it as much as possible, not you know yeah, live within your means. And and I'm not saying I never borrowed, because I did. When we bought our first family home, we took a mortgage, but for the last 10 years or so, I haven't had any debt. So but you have to live within your means. Libra fraudster, do you believe that the Fed should end as an institution because of its practices? If yes, to the latter, which practices are bad for the monetary system? Well, both, but I'll answer the latter. Its practices. Well, the practices that it manipulates interest rates, which should be set by the markets, and it has a monopoly to issue money out of credit out of thin air. They've increased their balance sheet by almost 4 trillion in the last 11 years out of thin air. They don't have to work like you and I do. See, they just type on the computer now. 20 billion. That's why. Low blood pressure. We already have socialism in America. Everyone's getting something. I agree. I agree. That's a big fallacy. Yeah, we do have big government everywhere. Not just in Europe, but in the US as well. Yeah, Pat, I do think the Democrats would probably be more very left wing, but it wouldn't be any different than now. It's just the people that would get the benefits would be the general public in the beginning, of course, and then you're going to get inflation. But you've had the one percenters, the Wall Street socialism for the 11 years, and they've done well, but it's not going to last forever either because it's not real wealth. Upper Darby, it's chilly here in Philadelphia or Philly. Yeah, it's chilly here in the UK as well, in London. Last week was fairly warm. This morning was quite chilly as well. I played golf this morning, and I had to wear my sweater or jumper, how they call it here in the UK. So I saw that one of the videos. I think yesterday it was snowing in upstate New York. So that's quite late. It's global warming, right? Oh, I forgot they changed it now to climate change because they can't justify global warming anymore. SAC Media thinks Trump will be elected again. Well, we'll have to see. I recommend you watch that Doug Casey research. They seem to think it will. He won't. But who knows? Who's going to be? No one knows the future like that. You can just try to guess. Here's the Casey video again. I recommend it. It's a little long. They're trying to sell something, which I didn't buy, but. The Protocols of the Elders of Zion. I've got that book. I haven't got the Henry Ford book, but I also recommend Anthony Sutton. He's dead already, but he wrote a lot of books about how Wall Street and the bankers financed the Bolshevik Revolution. They financed the Nazi takeover of Germany. They financed the Soviet Union, even during the Vietnam War. These guys finance. A war is the best business in the world. If you are psychopathic enough not to care about people dying in misery, war is great. And aside from being profitable, it gives government more and more power, which they usually keep after the war. A lot of times they justify, like homeland security or the income tax after the Napoleonic Wars. They say, oh, this is temporary, but then they always keep it, and government, gets bigger and bigger and more intrusive. Vbjorn Gritton, do you think they can use climate measures to explain a big economic crisis? For example, they can say economy is slowing down dramatically because we need to stop to. No, what I think they're gonna do is and they're doing that already here in the UK. They're encouraging children to protest for climate change and to increase taxes to so people stop, emitting carbon dioxide. Uh, I think it's just an excuse to tax us more. I'm not sure they'll use it to blame economic, a recession, but they'll definitely use it to tax us more. Martial law in wartime. Well, I think a lot of you know, the a lot of countries, and the U.S. included, is under martial law. A lot. The Gold Confiscation Act of 1933. They used World War One. Extraordinary rules to pass that. So yeah, I would say we don't really live in free countries in the West. We do live under martial law. Varying red beard, nice wallpaper when you're redecorating. I don't plan to redecorate varying red beard. Uh, yeah, they are planning to build the third temple. I agree. Trump has been quite helpful. So what else? What else have I seen here that's interesting? Uh, well, I'll tell you the story about the wallpaper. We moved it to in this house in 2015, and this is the study. The wallpaper was here already, uh, and it's William Morrison wallpaper, and it's very expensive. And we decided to keep it. It looks nice with the sofa, the green. That sofa, we had that already. The Chesterfield sofa. We had it from the old house, and it fit really well. So yeah, yeah. I've had a few people say things about the wallpaper, but it's my house, so and it is what it is. The pillows. All right, there's the flag pillow. There's Billy, and yeah, and that's the pillows. The story about the pillows. I mean, we had a Union Jack or Union flag pillow because we were in the UK. I think someone gave it to us years ago, and then I started making videos, and people were saying, "Well, where's the Stars and Stripes? Where's the Canadian?" So that's how I bought those. John James Rambo. China is a huge enemy to the US and Europe. I don't think so. I think the biggest enemies of the US and Europe are the central banks. So uh, China is just trying to, you look back at the US in the 19th century, they were like China. They're putting loads of tariffs, trying to develop their industrial base, you know, uh, in the early 1800s, throughout the 19th century. And that's what China is just trying to do. They're trying to develop. And I think they're trying to cooperate with people. And I think John James Rambo is wrong about this. He's falling into the divide and conquer rubbish that people like Alex Jones and Steve Bannon bandy around. John James Rambo, lol, get out of town. When did China jump in and save Europe? Well, John James, we've been talking about this, that World War One and World War Two was actually probably orchestrated by the same people who run the US. So it's all just a game. They didn't save Europe from anything. It was just a game. The people who fought in World War Two, they're doing business together at the Bank for International Settlements in Basel. Yeah, the Nazis were doing business with the Allies. So if you really think it's about good and evil, I think that's pure rubbish, John James Rambo. You need to do a little bit more research. I think it's the divide and conquer. Stand up, please. No, I'm not. I'm tired. I'm gonna. This morning, actually, I tried these. I saw on on uh, on the internet these exercises to warm up for golf, and I tried it this morning before I played, and it's actually made me sore. So my legs are hurting. Of course, yeah, PADA is 100%. It's a central banking debt-based system, and yeah, I mean that's why they don't teach monetary money in school. They should, I think, middle schoolers, high schoolers, they're clever enough to learn about money. The Austrian school, regression theory analysis of what money is. But they don't, because if people learn about the true nature of money, yeah, credit. Yeah, credit is, like JP Morgan said, gold is money, everything else is credit. Yeah, that's what it is. Low blood pressure. China is more capitalist than the USA. Actually, I agree with you on that. China doesn't have as big a welfare state as the US or Europe. Yeah. Why do the Chinese have to save so much money? Because there is no, government pension system in China. Or if there is, it's probably just started and it's not that great. I arrived late. Did you mention anything about the all-time high on SPX? Yeah, I mean, it was earlier this week. It did close on an all-time high, and I've spoken this in my videos, but it never really broke through the all-time high. And if anything, it's turned around. So we'll have to see what it does this week, next week. Varying Redbeard, but China liquidates dissenters. Well, what about Julian Assange? What's I think the West, they know they're better at liquidating dissenters. They're much more advanced than China. The statecraft in the UK and the US is much better. They've got something called the mainstream media. That's how they control things. So what's your favorite silver to stack? I don't really have any favorite. I try to, I do have some silver 90% quarters and half dollars. I've got gold bars. I've got Britannias. I've got maple leaves. Anything I can get a hold on for a fairly good price. The other thing about silver in the UK, we have to pay VAT tax 20%, and I don't think it should put people off. I was looking, for example, the 1 ounce coin in the UK is £16, the spot price, which is a big premium already because the spot price is 11. And then if you add VAT, it comes up to £20. But silver, you need to hold it for the long haul, I think. So if you buy like at 20 with the VAT and silver goes to £200, yeah, you missed £4, but it doesn't really make much difference. So I think you shouldn't worry about VAT or VAT. Tom Seward, do you like Krugerrands? Yeah, I do, but for tax reasons in the UK, it's better to have sovereigns. So yeah, I don't like the maple leaves, gold maple leaves, because it's 99%, it's 24 karat, and it gets damaged easily. Sovereigns and Krugerrands are 22 karat, so they're sturdier. Uh, John James Rambo, I'm leaving this channel. Good riddance, Maneco. Your views have changed drastically recently. I wish you and Billy the best. Take care. I hope China bails the euro out. Well, maybe, I think maybe China might also have to bail out the US, the dollar. US is running a deficit of 5%. The Germans are running a budget surplus. And I don't care. What if the euro goes? That's the thing, John. Uh, I don't care if the euro goes or the dollar goes because we are our own central bankers on this channel. I just wish that you look closer at home. There's someone who said that if America was ever gonna fail or collapse, it would be from within and not from without. And I think you need to do a little more homework on that. Maybe you're listening to Alex Jones too much. And I used to listen to Alex Jones, but I don't anymore because he used to be a libertarian, but now he's become totally right. I'm not right nor left. I'm for small government, sound money. And so I'm sorry you feel that way, but there you go. Can't please everyone. I don't know what the USA saved Europe from, really. Because if anything, World War I should have ended in 1916, but it was the American bankers who decided to help and continue the war. So the people who benefited the most from World War I were the American bankers and American business. And if World War I had ended in 1916, because the Germans offered a truce and go back to what it was like before World War One. But if anything, it was the Americans that made World War One, the continuation with World War One, possible. So, and I don't mean by that the American people. I mean the people in charge of America. The bankers. All right. Well, Pat, China is one of the U.S.'s biggest creditors. So, but I think if the U.S. if it defaulted on its debt, it would hurt China as well, of course. But all I think it's not as clear as people think. Oh, China's bad, U.S. is great, U.S. saved Europe. I think it's more than that. I think our problem is the central banks. In the end of the day, they're in charge. Local and state taxes ought to be fair and understandable. Federal pay slavery is slavery. Well, all taxes is slavery, Upper Darby, even local and state taxes. Yellow vest movement. Well, it's still going on, so I think they have some traction. Not sure about their intentions, really. I'm not sure if they're going to call for small government and sound money, even though some of them touch upon that subject. Vbjorn Gritton, what currency investment you think is best now? Rubles or yuan? If you need to choose. Well, as you know, I don't favor any of these fiat currencies, but I would say if I had to choose, it would be the Chinese yuan. That's right, low blood pressure. That's the best currency. Your opinion in having only a sales tax versus currently? I think all taxes are bad, so I wouldn't even want a sales tax. Why do we need tax? Any tax. Tony Ellis, no, I'm not familiar with Robert Beckman. Can you start an initiative for a worldwide bank run? No, I don't think I'm, you know, popular enough on YouTube to do something like that. Um, Debasement of fiat currency through dumping it for gold. It will happen. That's called hyperinflation. Uh, it could start happening, if things get bad, if the markets start tanking. 10% flat tax. Why not 0% flat tax? Yeah, I mean, Varying Redbeard says tax is desirable. I don't know if tax is desirable. I don't think, why should, I think people I think people should be responsive enough to look after their own affairs. Why give it to someone that you don't even know? Fire brigade doesn't have to be run by the government. In Switzerland, I know this because my sis, I have family in Switzerland. My brother-in-law, he has his own business in Switzerland in the small town they live. And the fire department is totally run by volunteers in that town, nothing to do with the government. So there you go. Libra fraudster, what would happen if we end the Fed without a backup plan? Well, you don't need a backup plan in the States. The US Constitution already defines what the monetary system should be, only gold and silver. There you go. Very easy. America has plenty of gold in the Grand Canyon. Robin Stratton. Uh, yeah, that's according to what's his name, Bix Weir. Not too sure about that one. Thank you there. Sorry, I don't know how to read the Arabic alphabet. He says, "We love you, Mario, for your dedication, authenticity." Pabar. Any chance the USA government will be honest about inflation? Not at present. Of course, they're not. Donald Trump said there's no inflation, even though we know there's inflation. If you look at shadowstats.com, if we calculate the CPI as it was calculated in the 1990s, it's more like 6%. Uh, Low blood pressure. What's your favorite kind of food? What's your favorite kind of food? I'm guessing Chinese. No, no, not Chinese. I do like China. I like the crispy duck, but no, my favorite food is like, I think the best places in the world to eat actually is Italy, and then France, Switzerland as well. Very good food. No, but not Chinese food. It's not my favorite. Yeah, the aromatic crispy duck with the you put it in the little I forgot what you call it. Indian food. I like Indian food as well. I like fat. I like McDonald's sometimes once in a while as well. Uh, yeah, I like steaks. I like steak is my favorite kind of food. A fillet, a prawn cocktail or a shrimp cocktail as a starter. Steak, and then a cheesecake. That would be, if I was on death row and I had to choose the last meal, that's what it would be. Low blood pressure, McDonald's poison. Yeah, I mean it's junk food, but I don't eat it twice or three times a week, maybe once a month, or maybe even not, once in a while. I think everything is moderation. Yeah, I do know Desert Wolf about the USS Liberty. It's amazing how people just, you know, Israel attacked that ship and killed a lot of people. But somehow it's like, I don't know, no one talks about it. Like, especially in the mainstream media, I haven't seen, Iran hit any American ships and kill people. Of course, they had the Iranian hostage crisis, but even that, I think, the Bush campaign, Bush senior campaign, uh, they sent CIA people to Tehran to tell them not to free them because they wanted those hostages to be there for the election, so that he would beat Jimmy Carter. So yeah, so who's the bad guy really? That's why, when people say, "Oh, China's bad" or "this is bad," and I'm not, I'm not saying I like the Chinese government or anything, but you know, I'm just saying that we can't. It's not all as black and white as it seems. Dinosaurs are coming back. David Montrose, how is Iceland doing after getting rid of the central bank? I don't know if they got rid of the central bank, but what they did is they let their banks, the private banks, commercial banks, collapse. They punished and put bankers in jail, and and they did well. Yeah, the Icelandic economy did very well, but they took the pain. Of course, it's only 300,000 people. It's a small country, but doesn't mean to say that you shouldn't do it in a bigger country. Oh, John, I thought you left the channel. Oh, you're still here. Take a trip to Iran. Let me know how it goes. Have you been to Iran, John? Uh, well, I can tell you, when I was younger, I had a lot of Iranian friends, actually. I knew Iranian people, and it was a very wealthy country, very westernized, but then they got rid of the Shah, and it's gotten worse. But I don't think I think the last time Iran invaded a country, the thing the U.S. does every year or has been doing for the last 30 years. I think the last time Iran invaded a country was over 200 years ago. So I think Israel is more of a threat than Iran, actually. But there you go. And I think a lot of people here would agree with me. Your opinion on why Kuwait had the strongest currency in comparison to gold? I haven't really followed the Kuwaiti dinar, so not sure why. John James Ramos says, I have not. This is why I'm still breathing. Well, I don't know. I have never been to Iran, but I couldn't tell you how it is over there. I know the Americans have been putting a lot of sanctions on Iran, and they're having a lot of economic problems because they're cutting them off. It's almost like war sanctions. So that doesn't help them either. So anyway. Smoke and mirrors. I think John James Rambo is actually Bibi Netanyahu. Yeah, it could be Benjamin Netanyahu. That's right. Or he could be Jared Kushner in disguise. Mr. 666, right? Jared Kushner. Hi, Desert Wolf. I have seen videos by David Cole. I don't touch upon this subject here because I try to cover more, the monetary system, central banking. But yeah, all this is really interesting what you're talking about. Oh, is Bart Shilton dead? I don't think he was the whistleblower, Bart Shilton. But he was part of the CFTC when the investigation was going on, and I think recently he was working for RT, Bart Shilton. I think he actually, you know, from what I read in the years ago about Bart Shilton, is that he actually did want to expose this, but he wasn't big enough to do it. All very suspicious. Well, I mean, I don't know. I mean, people die, all the time. I know it's relatively young, 58, but who knows? I hadn't heard that Bart Shilton had passed away. Uh, Low blood pressure. I do speak Portuguese. Yeah, the Brazilian Portuguese. I speak French as well, and Italian, and a bit of German because I lived in Switzerland. I did live in the French, speaking part of Switzerland, but my sister, my brother-in-law, they live in the German part. And what I found is when I was younger, I learned English when I was about 10 or 11, and then I learned French. And the more languages you know, the easier it is to speak other languages, I think. It's funny that John James Rambo wanted to leave my channel, but he's still here commenting. Jimmy Chu, I used to speak 7 languages fluently. So how many languages you speak now, Jimmy? I'm sure you still speak some of them. I know you forget some of them if you don't practice them, but Rene Michel, can we trust the bank safety deposit box for storing precious metals? Short answer, no. There you go. That's an easy question for me. No. Jimmy Choo 3. Okay, that's good. I mean, for the British and Americans, English speakers, uh, yeah, they don't have the incentive to learn other languages because you go anywhere in the world and people want to learn English. So I understand why people in here in the UK or in the US wouldn't. But countries like Switzerland, for example, they have 4 official languages in Switzerland. So most Swiss speak 2 or 3 languages, and a lot of them speak English. Do you get the class difference in England? Of course you do. It's the English are very conscious of social classes, and I think it's a silly thing. I think you need to judge people by their character, not this thing about class. It's all to do, I think, with the system we have here, where the head of state is supposed to be above and superior, and then you have the nobility or the aristocracy. They're supposed to be above the common people. I think it's all to do with that. Uh, Pabar, your opinion on Peter and Irwin Schiff? Yeah, Irwin Schiff. He was Peter Schiff's dad. He was, yeah, no, it's great what he did. He got into trouble because he went against the IRS. Irwin Schiff. It's great that they've done it. And you see, they're Jews. So when people go on about Jews and that they're bad and stuff, but Peter and Irwin Schiff were actually trying to expose the system. So that's why I don't like to get into religion. Jimmy Choo is from New York. All right, I'll take a few more questions. I'll do another 5, maybe 10 minutes, and then I'll call it a day. Coffee is really cold now. V. Bjorn Gritton, what is your favorite politician in the UK? Well, I don't like any politicians, but if I'd have to choose between those two, it would be Jacob Rees-Mogg. Yeah. There's another politician in the UK, I think Stephen, I forgot his surname, but he's in the same ERG group as Rees-Mogg. Stephen Baker, he's my favorite politician because he talks like me when he talks about sound money, gold, and central banking. So it would be Steve Baker, actually. But between those two, it would be Rees-Mogg. Low blood pressure. Do you still trade options? I did up until I did recently do some options, but yeah, I do trade a little bit like I'm trading a little bit like the tokens, EOS tokens that I've received as how can I say airdrops, and you can get some big moves in these tokens. For example, I got a token called POS. It's spelt like this. It's an EOS. Whoop, POS. Oh, let's try. I'm trying to type. Someone's blocked me. Anyway, no, yeah. So I do trade some of these tokens, like this POS token. I bought quite a few of them because I got some airdrops and I looked into it, and it's gone from like 300, the price 0.00300 to like 0.00700. So that's the kind of trading I do at the moment. John James Rambo, Iran is very connected with China. Well, I think the United States is very connected to China. I mean, it was the United States under George Herbert Walker Bush and President Nixon who opened up to China. So, I mean, you look at a lot of your consumer goods in the U.S., where are they made? But it's not only the U.S., but Europe. We're open to China. What about the U.S.? They do business with Saudi Arabia. I just saw that Saudi Arabia executed a 16-year-old for sending Instagram message or something. So, it's fine. Maybe and from what I know, it was Saudi Arabia who financed 9/11. So why is the U.S. friendly with Saudi Arabia? I didn't see the Chinese. Were the Chinese involved in 9/11? No, it was the Saudis, and some people even argue Mossad. So it's all very confusing, John James. That's all I have to say. Yeah, I think the Mossad, the Zionists. I don't like to use the word Jews, but Zionists, even though some people think they're the same, I don't think they are. The Saudi government and Mossad are like, they're friends, they're allied. Okay, everyone, I wish you all a great rest of the weekend, and I'll talk to you later. Just before I go here, I grew up on a council estate and I work with my dad as an apprentice electrician. You're a very smart guy, and my pop, watch you. Others with similar views to ultimately invest. Thank you, Annabelle. Go to the senior center, you old hoot, Mr. Ninja. Not sure what that means. Yeah, I'll talk to you tomorrow, Tom. Let's get rid of this guy. What is it? Okay. Low blood pressure. Take care, Mary. Stay away from McDonald's. I do. Don't worry. I probably had McDonald's meal once this year. Thank you, Popar. Thank you, only my Pop. I'll talk to you guys later. Take care. Bye.